But yeah, major tournament this weekend with current format. No Badoo, no Prismatic Evolutions, which basically means just Badoo. And the big deck for a while now has been Regidrago for a long time now. I did just win the Korean League as well, right? Just won
Yeah.
over there, and list was nothing crazy. So I can't think of a reason why anyone should expect anything crazy out of Regidrago going into this weekend. But even with that in mind, with everyone being able to predict what Reggie Drago can do and what they're going to be bringing, is anything going to be? Is it worth playing? Worth playing anything else? Is it just going to win again or be dominant again? I guess I should say.
Probably. It's probably just going to be very dominant. It might not win though, right? I mean, it's hard to win a Pokemon tournament, but like the odds are definitely in its favor to be the deck that is the ultimate winner of the tournament. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting as well. Let's start by talking about this, right? Because this is the first major tournament in a month that many of
Yeah,
these people that has like happened in this format, right? Obviously, there was the Korean League you talked about, but like for in the Western part of the world where most eyes are, what really affects the meta the most. Obviously, we had the Japan Championships that was in or the Osaka Champions League, I should say, but that was in a different format, right? So it's like you can. That I wanted to say you can kind of disregard that, but it actually does have a little bit of an impact, right? Because we've got our Chaladon deck that's kind of more prevalent now than maybe it would have been previous to that. But yeah, I like the fact that this tournament is kind of the first one in this format in quite some time. Like people have had kind of a long time to figure out what they want to play for this tournament. There's no big meta shifts really that are going to change people's minds like in the couple of weeks before the tournament. Like people have probably been pretty set for a while now on what they want to play or have a good idea of one or two decks that they want to play at this point heading into the tournament, and people are probably going to be feeling pretty comfortable. So I expect like a good amount of people are just going to be rolling up with Reggie Drago because it's been known as the best deck, and it is people have had a lot of time to practice it now, and people have had a lot of time to like learn the lines and get pretty good with it. And so Reggie Drago is probably going to be pretty popular. It's going to be played by some pretty good players, but I do think there might be an opportunity there for someone to kind of sneak in and play something that has a really good Reggie Drago matchup, like the Archaladon, like the Raging Bolt, something like that, and maybe have a deep run. Overall, though, Reggie Drago is still going to have the best tournament.
what do you think it would take? Like, I mean, yeah, I guess like someone could sneak in there with Raging Ball. What would it take though? Do you think for like Raging Ball or Reggie Drago to kind of have like a bad tournament,
For
like
Reggie Drago to have a bad tournament, I just don't think
or
that's
bad
it's
tournament?
possible. It's
You don't
not
think
possible.
yeah, and I kind of feel the same way. I don't think Raging Ball is going to get itself back up to like 12%. But even one Raging Bolt was like 12% of the meta. Drago was still dominating some of those tournaments. And a lot of that does have to do with the players that are choosing to play Bolt versus playing Drago.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, as long as the best players are still choosing to pick Reggie Drago, which it seems like a lot of them, which a lot of them have been, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them still chose to do that. Um, I mean, they're not playing Reggie Bolt, that's for sure. They're probably going to be picking up Reggie Drago again. So it definitely seems tough for Reggie Drago to not have a continued
Yeah.
dominant success.
But I really like Raging Bolt as a play for the tournament this weekend, to be honest. The tournaments this weekend. And I could even see it being a good play for San Antonio, depending on kind of like what happens here. I think one of the big downsides is going to be Gardevoir is a bit more popular. That matchup's kind of
Yeah.
tough for sure. Basically, I say kind of tough. It's probably like extremely unfavored. Really difficult to win as Raging Bolt. But I mean, you do pretty good against Reggie Drago, obviously. Our Chaladon seems fine. Charizard is probably going to be a little bit less popular than it has been because it hasn't been putting up the numbers and results, right? Can't beat Reggie
Yeah.
Drago.
Out of all the decks that people are gonna bring that have bad Drago matchups, what one would you bring if you, like, had to pick one, though?
If it's like a deck that definitely just loses to Drago,
Yeah, or I guess, like, what is the reason to play a deck? Like, well, so I guess, like, which deck do you think would be the best? A deck that is not you don't just lose, but, like, you're definitely unfavored against Drago, but you're choosing to, like, pick the deck. What one do you think is, like, best positioned right now?
I mean, it's probably Gardevoir, right? And I think that's why it's going to pick up in popularity quite a bit more. Um, Besides Drago, it's like a deck that doesn't really feel like it has any super terrible matchups. You can always, it's a definitely a deck that favors the more skilled, like it lets you have a higher like skill diff between your
Yeah,
opponent, right? Probably better than just about any other deck besides maybe Regidrago itself. Um, the damage manipulation options, the damage spreading options, and then there's also always like the Mawile thing is out there. I don't know if people necessarily even play it still. Probably it's a one card kind of inclusion that is can just kind of cheese you and win you games, especially in a tournament setting.
yeah.
Um, sometimes even if Regidrago knows you have it, sometimes they are going to put themselves in a spot where, they got to put their squawkabilly down to play the game. They maybe burn too many switching cards and you can just kind of close out the game, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
definitely.
I think it's Gardevoir. What do you think
Yeah, I think I probably agree. If we're talking about decks that are strictly unfavored against Gardevoir, I think that is
against
probably
Drago?
against Strago, excuse me. Yeah, I think Gardevoir is probably the one, and that's probably why we see so many good players picking up Gardevoir. Of course, you have players like Henry Chow, who is going to play Gardevoir no matter what, probably. So he doesn't quite count, but there's some other pretty good players who we saw bringing the Gardevoir to Toronto and having some decent success with it. But I mean, they all kind of came up a little bit short to the Reggie Dragos and cut, which is like we were saying, an unfavorable matchup. Despite having good pilots behind it, there's some really good pilots behind Drago as well. So it still seems, I don't know, it just seems, I don't know, it seems a little bit mind-boggling to me that people are still that stuff like, I guess not Gardevoir. Gardevoir's like not being played by that many players, but Charizard was always the main one that I critiqued really heavily in people's deck choosing. Deck choice was like, why are people bringing Charizard at this rate? It doesn't really make any sense. Gardevoir's a little bit different. It's not like a super popular deck, so a little bit different. Of course, people are going to play what they enjoy to some extent, play what they want to play, of course, but um, it feels like there was never room for something like a Raging Bolt to really become super popular again, because it's just like, well, I don't know, do I really want to deal with 10% Charizard and 6% Gardevoir? It's like, not really.
But now Charizard's probably going to be less popular.
Yeah.
Gardevoir will probably be a little bit more popular, but it's
And
still
it's
going to be
possible.
overall kind of low. Dude, I really like Raging Bolt this weekend, to be
And
honest.
Drago could hit like a not a new peak, because like it peaked pretty high at Worlds at like 24% or something, but it could be up there in like the 16, 17
Yeah.
percentage numbers.